Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for coming to our tool demo. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about reNgine. It's an automated reconnaissance framework, and this is going to be a tool demo. So you're going to see a lot of demos and probably walk through over the different features in the tool. Before we begin, a quick introduction about me. I'm Yogesh. I'm the creator of reNgine. I work as a research engineer for a company called TRG Research and Development in Cyprus, and my research focus is on building solutions for crime and terror. I have also been a speaker at TEDx, DEF CON, Black Hat, and a couple of other security conferences. I mainly speak about IoT security, hardware hacking, and mobile application security. But before we begin giving an introduction about the tool, let's talk about what exactly is Recon. So if you are a security, web application security engineer or somebody who does a lot of bug hunting, you know what exactly is Recon, right? So it's an information gathering process that you do before you approach any targets. So the data that is of your interest are subdomains. You're going to gather a lot of subdomains. You also are going to find out a lot of endpoints. It could be from the different sources. It could be from a webback machine. It could be from the web crawlers. And you also want to find out the infrastructure like your IP addresses, your ports, your running services. And you also want to find out the low-hanging fruits, such as any known vulnerabilities in any components that is being used in the web application. You also want to find out if there are any API endpoints, and you also want to find out the whois information that's in your OSINT. You also want to find out if there are any other targets that are similar to these, right? So all of this process that you see is called a recon. It's a reconnaissance, to be precise, and this is all about gathering the information. So you use a lot of tools to gather this information, but one of the really major problem is that a lot of these tools, they give you the output in the different formats. Some of them may give you the outputs in the format of TXTs. Some of them might give you the output in the format of JSON. Some of them might give you in the CSVs, right? So what happens is that there's a missing correlation between all of these output among these tools. So a couple of years back, I started working on reNgine. It's an automated reconnaissance framework that does exactly the recon that we're talking about, but a lot more better. And we see what exactly is better. So a couple of years back, I was working as a security engineer, and pen testing was my day job. When I was doing the pen testing the whole day, and I also had to do recon before I approach any targets, just like everybody else, right? I was using a couple of other open source tools that were already there out there. And a couple of things that was missing from the existing recon tools or framework was the first and foremost, the data correlation. So when I say data correlation, it's all about how your data relates between the output of other tools. Like suppose for subdomain gathering, you might use SubFinder, right? And for gathering the screenshots, you might use any eyewitness. And for gathering the URLs, you might use any other tools, right? Now, the main problem was if you had to filter out the results saying that, hey, I want to see the screenshot of the subdomain that uses IP address as this. Or you want to see the screenshots, or you want to know the subdomains that has port number 22 open, or that may have the SSH as a service running, right? Now, until and unless you are really good at doing the scraping, it's going to be super difficult for you to do the data correlation, right? And that was one of the major problems where I started building on reNgine. The other thing was visualization. And a lot of times, a good visualization clearly indicates how the recon data relates to each other, right? So when you do the recon, a lot of output that you have is in subdomains. You also have IP addresses, you have ports, you have services, and also the vulnerabilities, right? And how does this data correlate with each other? And how does your subdomain correlates with your IP addresses, and how your IP addresses has open ports, right? So if you were to do the visualization with the recon data that we have, it's going to be super helpful to figure out, okay, how many vulnerabilities does this port has? Can we also establish a relationship, or can we also come to a conclusion that this vulnerability was because the port number 22 was open, right? So that visualization was one of the reasons, one of the things that was missing out in the recon tools framework. The other thing that was missing was a recon analysis. A lot of tools are there in open source tools that are really good doing the recon, but main thing that was missing was also the recon analysis. So when I say recon analysis, imagine you are doing the recon, you're performing the recon on a larger targets like Facebook.com, which has approximately 100,000 subdomains. Now, if you were to find out the interesting subdomains among these 100,000 subdomains, it's going to be super difficult for you. Again, you had to be really good at doing the graping, or maybe just do the control F and search for the interesting subdomains, right? So when I say interesting subdomain, it could be anything with the keywords like admin, keywords like dashboard. Those are the kind of things that you would like to approach first, right? And this recon data analysis was definitely missing in a lot of tools out there. And the other thing that was missing was a recon data chains. Now, when I say recon data chains, it's how your recon data, how your subdomain, or how your endpoints have changed over the time. How many of them have been newly added, or how many of them have been removed since the last scan. That was also one of the major things that was missing. And the third thing, fifth thing that was missing is a continuous monitoring. When I say continuous monitoring, suppose if you wanted to monitor a particular target over the period of time. Suppose say I want to scan a target every 15 minutes or every 1 hour or every 1 week. So either you do using the cron jobs, or either a lot of tools, they had to use cron jobs as to do the continuous monitoring. But doing the continuous monitoring and sending out the notifications on the notification channels was again a tedious task. Suppose imagine if there was a tool that says, hey, one subdomain has been newly appeared, right? So those kind of things was missing out in all of these existing recon tools or framework. And then I started building something for my own, and later I did open source, and reNgine is the outcome of that. So let's talk about what reNgine has to offer. The first thing reNgine has to offer, just like every other tool, reNgine performs reconnaissance. It does gather the subdomains. It does find out the patterns on the endpoints. It also finds out the vulnerabilities and does OSINT also. When I started building out the reNgine, my tool had to have something called scan engines. And this scan engines is something that tells how a scan has to be performed against a target. Whether you want to do subdomain scan, whether you want to do endpoint scan, or whether you want to take the screenshots or not. So I started imagining this itself as a scan engines, and you could choose what you want to perform. So reNgine comes with a highly configurable scan engines with the YAML configuration, from where you can define even the minute details. What reNgine does in the background is that it uses a lot of these open source tools out there already in the GitHub, right? Suppose for subdomain, we use SubFinder, we use SubLister, we use Asset Finder, we use even EMAS. Now, the thing is that reNgine integrates all of these tools, and you can also choose what tools do you have to use. Not only limited to subdomain scanning or not scanning, you could also choose, okay, I want to use SubLister, or I want to use SubFinder only as a subdomain gathering tool. You can do that using YAML configuration. That's why I call it a highly configurable scan engines. The other one that we have is a deeper correlation. reNgine establishes the relationship between your recon data, your subdomains to your IP addresses, to your ports, and any known vulnerabilities, any OSINT data. So you could come to a conclusion that, okay, this vulnerability might have come because of this. Or also you could figure out how many of the subdomain has technology as a PSP running, or how many of the subdomain has MySQL as a technology that is being run. So that is the result of deeper correlation. reNgine also comes with a continuous monitoring. You could set up the scan, such as scan every 1 hour, minutes, or days. You could also do the clogged scan. That means scan at this exact specified period of time. We also have powerful recon search query using natural language like operators. And when I started building out, reconnaissance, you know that recon has a lot of data. It's tons of data, right? And if you do not have a powerful recon search query, it's going to be super difficult to find out exactly what you're looking for. So reNgine comes with a powerful recon search query. You could use natural language like operators, and, or, not, greater than, smaller than. Suppose things like content length greater than 100. Content length equals to 0, or HTTP status equals to 200. You could use those natural language like operators. We also have a screenshots gallery. Suppose if you do not want anything else to see, but you just want to have a screenshot gallery that takes you through all the subdomains, we also have that. And what's interesting is that we also have filters on the screenshot. So you could filter out all the screenshots that has HTTP status as 200. And you could also figure out endpoints, based on the IP addresses, how many of these screenshots has IP address is this. You could do that as well. And we also have recon visualization. We have tree-like graphs from where you could connect the dots between the different recon results, from your subdomains to your IP addresses to your ports. You could do that as well. We also have grouping and tagging of targets. Just imagine, let's take an example of a target called google.com. Google has a lot of domains like your waymo.com, it could be alphabet.com, it could be google.com, right? So these are different targets. What if you could tag these targets or domains to a particular organization, and you could initiate this scan for an entire organization instead of doing the multiple scans for these different targets? You could just scan an entire organization, and that would scan all of these domains associated with that. So reNgine has that feature as well. reNgine also comes with the Recon data sense. That means if you are to find out, if reNgine is to find out any new subdomains and new endpoints, or if it finds out the subdomain is no longer available or it has been decommissioned, reNgine notifies you for that as well. And reNgine also comes with the interesting subdomain lookup. That means reNgine uses certain keywords like admin, dashboard, and that's completely customizable. You could also add it on keywords, and reNgine finds out any subdomains that is interesting for you. Suppose things like admin.pay.google.com or admin.something.redacted.facebook.com. So reNgine looks up those keywords in a page title, in your endpoints, in your subdomains, and then tells you, okay, hey, this is the interesting subdomain. Maybe you would like to, have a look at it. And since reNgine 1.0, we also have an OSINT support. So we do a lot of meta info gathering. We gather the employees and their email addresses and their leaked password to the leaked password database. We do a lot of things in the OSINT as well. And we also have proxy support. Since reNgine 1.0, reNgine comes fully supported with the proxy support. You could enter as many number of proxies as you can, and then it just picks up randomly one during the scan. We also have customizable alerts. That means you can customize what kind of alert has to be sent. Hey, I want notifications only when there is a new subdomain. I only want notification when there is a critical vulnerability, or I only want notification when the subdomain has been decommissioned. So you could completely customize this, and the channels that we support as of now are Discord, Slack, and Telegram. We also have target summaries, and last but not the least, that is vulnerability assessment report. So reNgine 1.1 is probably going to be released in the next couple of weeks, and you're going to see vulnerability assessment report as well. So the entire PDF report, the vulnerability assessment report, is going to be generated automatically by reNgine. Apart from this, we also have really interesting features such as if you are a bug bounty hunter, you're going to see the automatic vulnerability reporting to HackerOne. That means if reNgine discovers any vulnerabilities on any of your targets during the continuous monitoring or during the quick scan, reNgine is just gonna send a notification to the HackerOne with automatic vulnerability report as well. And that report is also customizable. So let's have a look at how to install the reNgine and the installation demo. For more information about the documentation and how to install for your operating system, you're going to find it on reNgine.wiki/install. The one that I'll show you the demo is going to be on Ubuntu 20.04, and the installation steps should be similar across all the operating systems.
Now, the most important thing in reNgine is your scan engine. These scan engines define the way you scan the targets. So this consists of your what kind of scans do you want to perform, whether it's only subdomain scan, whether you want to perform OSINT, whether you want to perform port scan. Similarly, it also comes with a YAML configuration where you can define what kind of tools do you want to use. reNgine comes by default with a couple of tools pre-installed, things like your EMAS, your asset finder, your sublister, your subfinder, one for all. These are the kind of tools that are supported for your subdomain discovery. And now not only you can choose what to perform with the targets, but also you can choose what tools to be used to perform that particular scan. So you can see here in the YAML configuration, right now I'm sharing my screen from a official documentation of reNgine, and you can see this is the default YAML configuration. You can define what all your scan engine has to perform and what tools it has to use. And we also allow you to configure the minute details, things like your threads, things like your timeout, things like what to discover, your intensity, and a lot of things. And to figure out these things, you definitely need to come to the documentation of reNgine, and everything that you see here in the scan engine is being clearly explained here. What do you want to perform, what things are supported, what are not supported, everything is given here. And reNgine by default comes with a couple of pre-installed scan engines just right enough to scan your targets, your things like a full scan, subdomain scan, your OSINT, whether you want to perform the vulnerability scan or reNgine recommended, right? So to add any scan engines, you just have to go here, add the new engine, and define what all your scan engine has to perform. Just name it as intent research, and then let's say your scan has to perform the subdomain discovery. I want screenshots also to be taken. I don't want OSINT, and then I want port scan. I don't want directory and file search. I don't want endpoints, and I don't want vulnerability scan to be performed. And down, if you come, you're gonna see here what tools it has to use. I only want to use subfinder for now. You can remove all of them, and then you can increase or decrease your threads based on where you're running. If you're running on VPS, you can keep it high. If you're running on your local machine, you can keep the threads low. And then you can come down, you can see whatever your scan engine has to perform, you can add up here in the YAML configuration. Click on add engine. So now your engine has been added. You can also modify your default scan engines and your custom scan engines as well. Now that we have seen the dashboard and scan engines, let's add up a couple of targets and scan them. See how we can perform this scan against any target using any scan engines. To add up any target, you just need to go here and click on the targets, and you'll find out a section here which is called add targets. Let's name our domain name is hacker1.com. This is the target that we want to scan, and in the description section you can write anything that you wish. If you want to, reNgine also supports sending vulnerability reports automatically to HackerOne. If your domain name hacker1.com is a target on HackerOne and you want to report if any vulnerability has been discovered, you can add up your team handle here. We will talk about what exactly is team handle in the coming slides. So once you have hacker1.com, let's click on add target. You have added one target here. You can also add up multiple targets from here. You can separate each target by a new line, and you can also import using your text file or a CSV file. And in the all the targets section, you have two options here. That's a quick scan and a scheduled scan. reNgine also supports continuous monitoring of your targets, which we will talk in a couple of minutes. To quickly scan any target, let's click on this scan button, and now you can choose what kind of scan engine do you want to use against this target. If you remember, in the earlier slides we spoke about the scan engines and how to configure them, right? So we had added an engine called intent research. We're gonna add up here. This is gonna do the subdomain discovery. This is also gonna take the screenshots, but not gonna do the OSINT and other stuff, but also does port scan. So once I have chosen the scan engine, let's click on next, and you have an option to import the subdomain. So if you have any private Recon tools from which you have any new subdomains, you can add up here and separate them using the multiple lines. And also reNgine support out of scope subdomain. So if there are any subdomain that you do not want it to perform the port scan or directory scan or anything else, you can add up those subdomains here, and you can click on start scan. That's how easy it was to scan any target. Now let's talk about the continuous monitoring and how do we monitor the targets. Let's go back to our target section. Let's click on scheduled scan. So here you have two options. That's a periodic scan and clocked scan. Periodic scan means you want to run this scan every 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 hours, 40 hours. The options are supported here. And there is one more which is called clocked scan. So this is gonna run your scan exactly at a specific period. So let's go back to periodic scan and then say I want to run my scan every 1 day or every 2 days. So I can click on 2 days, click on next, choose the scan engines. It's the same thing like a quick scan from here. Let's click on next. Now you can import your subdomains here. Let's click on start scan. Yep, it was that simple. So you can see here the scheduled scan history. The description is the intent research for hacker1.com, and it's gonna run the frequencies. It's gonna run every 2 days, and it was never run because we just added it here. And you're also gonna see the run count. That means how many times the scan has been run, the continuous monitoring, and you can enable and disable from here, and you can also delete the scheduled scan from here. Now let's have a look at how does the Recon data looks like in reNgine. So if you come back here, you can see the recently completed scan. We have 4 targets that were recently scanned. Let's click on one of these and see how the dashboard looks like once you have completed the scan. So here you're gonna find a couple of widgets. Quickly you can see that reNgine discovered 36 subdomains, 12 of them were alive. You are also gonna see the endpoints that reNgine has discovered, and if reNgine has performed any vulnerability scan and it was able to find out any vulnerabilities, it's gonna appear here. And then you're gonna also see the scan timeline, what happened during the scan, and then you're also going to see the recent scans. So if a target has been scanned multiple times, that's going to build up the timeline here. We will talk about what exactly is important subdomains in some time, similar Recon node or to do. Let's come down and see here. Now in the whole bugcrowd.com target, reNgine discovered 13 IP addresses, and any IP addresses that are highlighted with yellow are the IP addresses for your CDN. So if you come to the other widget, there is a discovered port. So we also did the port scanning for this target, and we found out that reNgine has discovered 4 ports open in all of the subdomains, and any port that are not common, reNgine is going to highlight them. One of the interesting thing is that if you hover your mouse over this port, reNgine is also going to tell you what services are running on top of those ports. So that's how it works here. And then on the right, you're also going to see the discovered technologies, and then once you hover your mouse, you will find out how many subdomains are using those technologies. And interestingly, you can click on these these badges to see which all subdomains are using that particular technology. So that is what exactly I was talking about, the deeper correlation between your Recon data. So now your subdomain has IP addresses has ports, and your subdomain also has technologies, right? So what reNgine does is the deeper correlation between these Recon data, and then it builds the relationship between your technologies and subdomains. So you can easily look up, okay, how many of the subdomain uses technology as a Cloudflare. You can click here, and then you're gonna find out, okay, these are the subdomains that uses Cloudflare as a technology. Right? So similarly, how many of the subdomain uses MySQL as a database? So these are the subdomain that uses this technology. That's how we build the deeper correlation. And then down, if you come, there's something called interesting data, and then you're also gonna see the subdomain changes here. If your target has been scanned multiple times and reNgine has found out any subdomain changes, that also will appear here. First thing, let's have a look at the Recon data filtering. How do we do the Recon data filtering in reNgine, and what are these filters? So now if you see, click on the subdomains tab, you're going to find out this widget where you're going to see every Recon data that reNgine has discovered. These all are your subdomains. You're going to find the HTTP status here, the titles, the IP addresses, the ports, and the content length. Now interestingly, what we tried to do in reNgine was what I wanted from my Recon engine was that I wanted all the data to be in one place, because you see the screenshots are taken by one of the different tool, and the subdomain scanning is being done by the other tool. If we are to keep this data, Recon data, in a separate files or any file structure, what is going to happen is that if I have to find out, okay, show me all the subdomain that has HTTP status as 200, and I want to quickly look at the screenshots, it's going to take a long time, right? And reNgine tries to bridge that gap. You can filter the results not only using the HTTP status, but also your titles, your IP addresses, your ports, your content length, and so many things. So this is how it's going to look like, and all of these are again clickable. So if you click on this Cloudflare, you're going to find out which all subdomain uses that particular technology. You can also click on this 443, and you're going to find out how many of the IP addresses uses that particular ports, and how many of the subdomain uses that particular ports. That's how you do the deeper correlation here. By default, it is sorted using your content length. You can also click on these screenshots, and you can have a quick glance at these screenshots as well. You can go back and forth. That's how it works here. Now let's talk about the Recon data filtering. So this is something that I have worked on really hard because Recon data is really huge. If you do not give an option for users of for pen testers to filter out the Recon data, no any Recon tools are going to be a complete Recon tools, right? So here what we did was You can use, this is an auto completion. You can use any of these titles. I would say the filter options here. You can filter using your name, base title, HTTP status, if it is important or not, if, using the CNAME, using the HTTP URL, your technology port, web server, anything. So let's quickly do name equals let's just say doc. So now once you click on enter, you're gonna see all the subdomain that has doc in the subdomain. Documentation, docs.bugcrowd.com, research, docs.bugcrowd.com. That's how easy it was and super fast to filter out the recon data. Not only that, but you also get an option to combine the search results. Now, if you see here, we have two of the subdomains that are 200 and the other is 300. Let's just do and http _ equals 200. So now you're not gonna see the other results. So you can combine these multiple filters to gather exactly the recon data that you are looking for. Let's see another demo where we filter out the scan recon data using the technology filters. Technology equals let's just say Heroku. So now you will see all the subdomain that uses Heroku as a technology. And what we did was not only in the subdomain section, but also in the screenshot sections, we have made sure that you are also able to filter out the screenshots. So let's click on screenshots. And now you're going to see all the screenshots here. What's amazing is that you can filter out even the screenshots based on your HTTP status, based on your IP addresses, based on the running services, ports, and technologies. So let's click on HTTP status and let's see all the subdomain that has HTTP status is 404. So there are three of the subdomains that has HTTP status 404. It was that simple. Let's see only the subdomain that are HTTP status 200. So all of these subdomains that you see are HTTP status 200. And we can also filter out based on the IP addresses. We can also filter out based on the running services and ports and technology. So let's see only the subdomain that uses Heroku as a technology. So this is the subdomain screenshot that uses Heroku as a technology. You can do the same thing for all the other filterings. You can also search using a base title. You can also search if it is an interesting subdomain. You can pretty much search everything from here, search button as well. Now let's talk about the recon data visualization. See, a good visualization always establishes a relationship between the multiple recon data, right? So from your subdomain, from your IP addresses, from your ports, from your technology that are discovered, and your vulnerabilities. reNgine is gonna build a relationship and do the visualization for you. So now you see our target was bugcrowd.com, and then it has discovered a couple of subdomains. Once we click on the subdomains, you can find out using the color codes. Okay, so the green ones that you see here are the HTTP status 200. Let's click on one of these. It says hooks.bugcrowd.com is an interesting subdomain. Let's click on this, and it has discovered a couple of things. Once you click on IP, you're gonna see there are two IPs associated with these subdomains. Once you click on IP, you're also gonna see the ports that are associated with that. You can click on multiple of these. You can hide them. Similarly, the endpoints and technologies. So this hooks.bugcrowd.com uses Cloudflare as a technology, and you can also click on screenshots, and then you're gonna see the screenshots here. Similarly, forum.hackathon.com, click on screenshot, you're gonna find that. And once reNgine has also discovered the vulnerabilities, you can find out those vulnerabilities tab here, right? And then this is super useful if you want to establish, if you want to see the relationship between your recon data. And as I said, a good visualization will tell you what is the relationship between your recon data from your subdomains, from your IP addresses, for your ports, and any other. Even if reNgine has discovered any OSINT, that also is going to appear here. Now let's talk about the recon data changes. Remember earlier I told you what separates reNgine from any other recon tool out there is that reNgine has an ability to figure out how the recon data had changed in the past. So if you see here, I had scanned bugcrowd twice, and in one of the results it found out 36 subdomains, and in the other one it discovered 35, right? It happened because of multiple reasons. Recon data are ever changing. The subdomains might appear, might disappear. It might be no longer functioning, right? So what reNgine does is that it tells you if there are any subdomain that has been added or removed. To do that, you just have to click on the results, click on the view section. Once you go down, you're gonna see the subdomain changes here, and the badge says there are one subdomain changes. and it is comparing the scan that was performed last on November 4, 2021, and that discovered 35 subdomains. And it also says, well, this subdomain scan gathered around 36 subdomains, and the subdomain that it was added was gslink.bugcrowd.com. That's the 36th subdomain, and the HTTP status is 404. Similarly, if reNgine has discovered any endpoints, any subdomains that are no longer discovered or recently discovered, all of them are going to appear here, and you're going to see the badge, what has happened to that, if it is added, if it is removed. And this holds true for your endpoints and your subdomains. In the in the future releases, reNgine might come with a feature for your newly discovered vulnerabilities, newly discovered ports, newly discovered endpoints. Those things are yet to come. reNgine also comes with an option for pattern discovery. So I'm not sure if you have used the tool called ZF. It's a really interesting tool that does the pattern discovery on your endpoints, and reNgine uses ZF to find out the patterns on your URL. Suppose once you click on this URL, you're gonna see these interesting extensions, interesting params, interesting subs, LFA, redirect, SSRF, and XSS. So so ZF does the graping on top of this URL, and then finds out if it has an interesting extension, if it has interesting parameters, interesting subs, that's a subdomain, or if it is LFI or RFI. So if you click on any of these, you're gonna see in the table the results. Let's click on SSRF. So this is how the SSRF result looks like. This is how the SSRF URL looks like, and then your XSS, the URL that are potentially vulnerable to your XSS. You are also going to see the tags here, and that holds true for all your endpoints. If you go and click on all your endpoints and click on tags, you'll find out the interesting extensions. You will find out, if this URL belongs to anything else. Suppose if you see here, it has interesting params, LFI, redirect, SSRF, and XSS, but this one only has interesting subs, is because it has admin on its URL. Similarly, you can add up any of your custom ZF patterns from your settings sections, which we'll talk in the future, but that's how it basically works. Now let's see how reNgine does the Recon data analysis and finds out the interesting subdomain for you. One of the really interesting feature in reNgine is interesting subdomain finding feature. So what is interesting subdomain? Imagine if you were to do the subdomain scan for larger targets like Google or Facebook, which has more than 100,000 subdomains, and you are to find out what's your next target, where are you going to attack, right? So in that case, most probably you're going to go and find out admins, a dashboard, or any cPanels, or any PSMI admin. It could be anything. So what reNgine does is that it uses those keywords to find out the interesting subdomain for you. Now these keywords are completely customizable. You can add up any keywords. You can also add up any conditions to look up the keywords, such as an interesting subdomain is an interesting subdomain to me only when it has admin on the page title, but also the HTTP status is 200. For me, any subdomain that has admin.facebook.com but HTTP status is 503 or 404 is not interesting, right? So you can put up those conditions here as well. And what we also understand is that at a lot of times your dashboard could also be in something like pay.google.com, but there could be a dashboard. So reNgine also looks up your custom keywords on the page title as well. So not only the subdomains or URL are also in the page title, and also it has a lookup condition. So let's see here, I have added a couple of custom keyword here. For me, forum, docs, and hook are the interesting keyword. You can remove them. By default, reNgine comes with 4 keywords that are admin, FTP, cPanel, and dashboard as a default keywords. And reNgine is going to find out the interesting subdomain for you. And if you have set up your notification channels like your Slack, your Discord, or Telegram, reNgine will also send you the notifications on your Telegram, Discord, or any notification channels as well. So let's click on scan history and see what reNgine has discovered interesting subdomains on our target stripe.com. Now remember, there is 330 subdomains. Now finding out what is interesting subdomain out of 330 by manual is a difficult task, right? It's going to take a long time. So let's click on interesting Recon data and see here reNgine has discovered 23 interesting subdomain. If you see here, it has is-dashboard-admin.stripe.com, and this is interesting subdomain because it has both dashboard and admin. Similarly, you can come down and see here, this subdomain is interesting because we had hooks as our custom subdomains. Let's click on this here. Yep, in fact, there is a dashboard here. There's a login page, right? So that's how reNgine figures out. Let's go back to our interesting lookup and change our condition. For me, interesting subdomain is an interesting subdomain only when the HTTP status is 200. So I checked on this checkbox and click on update lookup. I'm gonna go back to scan history and see what has changed. Now on the stripe.com, instead of 23 subdomains as interesting, now we have only found out 4 interesting subdomain, and all of them has HTTP status as 200, and that applies to your endpoints as well. Now let's talk about your scan alerts, that's your notification channels. reNgine supports by default your Discord, your Telegram, and Slack. It sends any scan related notifications. If any vulnerabilities has been found out, it sends you the notifications. So to configure that, you just have to click in settings, go to notification settings here, and you can find out here Slack, Discord, and Telegram. Whatever things that you need, all the documentation has been linked here. And what is interesting is that reNgine allows you to customize what kind of notifications that you want to send. Suppose if you do not want to receive any scan related notifications, updates like your scan initiated, scan completed, you can uncheck them. If reNgine finds out any interesting subdomain, it also is gonna notify you. You can check or uncheck that if any vulnerabilities has been found out. By default, reNgine doesn't send any informational vulnerabilities because that sometimes is a huge, and it just might be in spam, right? It could be in spam. So reNgine by default blocks any information vulnerability notifications, and also reNgine sends you the notification for your subdomain changes. Suppose if it has discovered any new subdomain, reNgine is just gonna say you that, hey, one new subdomain has been discovered, and it's gonna send you the notification on your channels. And if you are to use Discord, reNgine sends the scan output, that is your scan subdomain gathered file, that's a .txt file, directly to your Discord as well. So you can pipe that with your other Recon tools or Recon pipeline. Now let's look at the upcoming feature in reNgine 1.1. One of the features that I'm really excited for is automatic via report generation. A lot of companies and individuals that they use reNgine for continuous monitoring and scanning the internal asset. And one of the really important features is that they want the VA report to be automatically generated. That's your PDF report, and it could be something like your executive summary. So reNgine 1.1 comes with that feature. To do that, all you have to go is scan history, click on these dots, click on download report, and then now you have an option to choose what kind of report do you want to download. Either it's gonna be a reconnaissance report, and if you had done any vulnerability scanning, you're gonna find out that as well. Let's click on download report, and then in some time reNgine is gonna generate the report for you, and you should be able to view that. So let's click on this. So this is the VA report that's automatically generated by reNgine. What is interesting is that you can customize each and every single thing about this particular report. If you go to report settings here, you can customize the colors that reNgine the report has to use. Let's just say I want it to have orange color. So secondary color is being used for a cover background. Let's say I want the maybe this color, probably this color, let's just say blue color. And you can also say the company name. You can also use the company address, company email, and then if you want to show any footer text, if you want to give the reNgine credits, that also is you have an option to check and uncheck there. What is interesting is that reNgine also has an option to generate the executive summary, right? So, and that summary is again completely customizable. So if you see here, it says on, you use our syntax, scan date, reNgine is gonna replace that with the actual scan date. Target name, that's your target name, engage this company name, so this is your company name, that's gonna be here. So if you come back to the report, let's just generate another report. Let's click on download report. It's gonna be full scan report. Let's click on download. Now it has been downloaded. So you see here, this is the full scan report generated November 4th. You're gonna see all the executive summary here. You're gonna see the quick summary, the subdomain that I discovered, the endpoints, the vulnerabilities. It discovered one critical, one high, one medium, and rest are info. You're also gonna see the interesting recon data here, and you're also gonna see the vulnerabilities that has been identified, and then all the discovered assets here. So if you come back to the executive summary, so if you see this executive summary, this is automatically generated by reNgine. It says on 20th October 2021, yogesoza.com engaged Yogesh company to perform security audit on their web application. So this is completely customizable. You can pretty much write whatever you wish here. From the report section, you can change small details like a color, your credit sections, your company name, your headers and footers. You can pretty much customize anything. So these are the footers that we're being customized from there. So this is something that's coming in reNgine 1.1.
So now we have come towards the end of this session. A couple of announcements. Now that a lot of companies and individuals are using reNgine to scan their internal assets and to do the bug bounty, security has become very important for reNgine itself. So last month we released the bug bounty and program on reNgine, and since then we have resolved around 13 vulnerabilities on reNgine. Some of them were critical, some of them were high. Just to know, if you're a security researcher, reNgine has its own bug bounty program. Do report the security vulnerabilities and get paid for them. We collaborated with Hunter and Dave. So if you find out any security issues within reNgine, make sure to report them via Hunter.Dave, and you're going to get paid for that. So that is all about reNgine. Thank you so much for joining in. If you have any questions and answer, I'll be here to answer them. Feel free to drop them in the chat box. If you want to know more about the reNgine, the tool is right there in the GitHub. The link for the tool is github.com/yogesoza/reNgine. And if you want to know more about the documentation, it's there on reNgine.wiki. You can find documentation on how to use scan engines and how to add targets. Everything, pretty much everything about reNgine is there on reNgine.wiki. Send us your feature requests and issues on GitHub. If you have any installation problems, or if you would like us to include any new features, we have got you covered. So please send us all your feature requests and issues on GitHub. We also have our own Discord community. If you have any issues during the installation, the community is there to help you. So head over to the GitHub section, GitHub Discord section. You'll find out the link for Discord. And that's pretty much. So if you have any questions, please ask them. For any feature request also, please drop them on the chat section. I'm here to answer them. Thank you very much.